Cool special. I'm super excited today because with me is Bonnie Robertson, my friend and attorney with Oswalt Noni, or Robertson Oswalt and Noni, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she is an attorney. She's been an attorney here in Arkansas for a long time. They specialize in family law, such as child custody, divorce, things like that. And today we're going to talk about her book, After the Wedding, A Divorce Lawyer's Top 25 Tips to Keep You Married. But first, tell us a little bit about you, how you got into law and how that all came to be.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you for letting me be on your show. I'm
Of
very
course.
excited. I'm Bonnie Robertson. I grew up in Greers Ferry,
Okay.
Arkansas, so I'm a country girl, and I came down to Little Rock, and I've lived in Little Rock and the surrounding areas for most of my adult life. I ultimately went to law school because I didn't want to be um, a cop
Okay.
with my criminal justice degree. Got a law degree and started practicing family law, and that was about 24 years ago, and
Wow,
I've loved it.
24 years. That's awesome. All right. Well, tell us three things about yourself that are not legally related, that are just interesting things.
I have three children,
Okay.
adult children, one stepdaughter who's 32, and then two other adult children that, aren't as good.
No, not as good.
They know I'm teasing, but our first one was she was raised by lots of people, so she's got all kinds of good
It
traits.
takes a village, as they
Yeah.
say, right?
I love dogs. I love animals. I love animal welfare. A third one, I love to dance and travel and have a good time.
Okay. You, traveling any place in particular that you recommend people go in the different places you've seen?
Well, my favorite place to go, and I try to do it every few years, is go to Europe.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
What is there a particular area of Europe you like over another? I mean, London, France, Germany. I mean, anything particular?
Well, my heart belongs to Germany because
What?
I was an exchange student there in high school.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know that about you.
yeah, I was 16 years old, turned 17, was wild as hell over there. I was my host mom's only daughter. She had two sons. So you can imagine that I created quite a challenge for her. And
Right?
we're still very close, my host parents and I.
That's
I go visit them
amazing.
as much as I can.
Okay, that's really cool. Now, do you speak any of that, Spriggins Dutch, as they say?
Yes, I am fluent. It usually takes,
Really?
oh, yeah. In fact, when I left, according to my friends, you couldn't tell that I was American.
Wow.
I really engaged in the culture and the language. It just came easy to me.
Tell me, as far as Germany versus American culture, what's different there?
Well, a lot of things, but there are laws, the things that are stigmatized here, the taboo here around sexuality, around alcohol. I can tell you, like in a global sense, they kind of have it on us in those ways because
Okay.
their cultures are so, in my opinion, more enlightened about those issues.
Okay.
The there are a lot of similarities as well, but as far as how it shaped me, it was just the different kind of laid back parts of their culture that I brought back here, and frankly, it informed how I raised my own kids.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, let me ask you this. Tell me, what's a pet peeve of yours?
Well, I have a lot.
Don't we all?
That probably doesn't surprise you. I think my latest is okay. Is pictures of, and this is going to be very controversial. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Throw it on me.
Pictures of the groom, like leaning over the bride. What do you call it? Dipping the
Oh,
bride.
dipping the bride, right? The whole, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I know that's very controversial because that's often the bride's favorite photo. But here's what plays in my head when I see that photo. Patrick. Are
Okay.
you ready?
Yeah.
She's mine.
Oh, it seems very Neanderthal in that way. Yeah, I got you.
Again, I know that's controversial.
No, that's just fun.
Yeah.
All right. So, look, obviously you deal with challenging situations with families, whether it's divorce, whether it's custody, whether it's all of the above. But, sometimes as humans, we get in our own way. What do people sometimes do, your clients, that make your job harder, even if they don't realize they're doing it?
Um, the hardest part of my job and the most challenging part of divorces is when people use their children as weapons or um, consider their children their own property. I that's I'm like a broken record on that issue, but I can tell you it's the part of divorces and the crisis of divorce or paternity, any kind of
Yeah.
child custody. So it's the part that really is going to screw up the kids in a generational sense. They are going to have no idea what functional looks like because the parents just cannot break themselves of that.
I struggled with that, and I think that probably helped me to have a divorce or two under my belt, because I didn't have a very good role model as far as what a relationship looked like. Now, my parents didn't divorce; they should have, but they didn't, and so there's a lot of domestic violence. There's a lot of arguing, things of that nature, and so as a kid. All I knew when I came out into the relationship world is, hey, you stick it out. You work it out no matter what. That's not the right answer. Matter of fact, in your book, you talk about the 3 A's that are game changers.
Yes, the book is my top 25 tips for otherwise relatively functional people. The 3 A's are abuse, addiction, and adultery. And these tips, obviously, if one of those exists in a marriage or a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
these tips are not going to work. You're going to need
You're going to need
help
something more
otherwise,
than that. Yeah.
or to divorce. I'm not trying to encourage divorce, but those are 3 problems that just, some tips from me are not going to help you out. And so I don't purport to address that.
No, all of those things, and I'm not saying couples can't overcome any of those, because
Correct.
many couples have overcome all of those things, maybe all 3 of them. But if it's actively happening and you're not as a couple working to solve that, to end that problem, then yeah, a book's not going to help you.
Right.
No, what's going to help you is to get involved probably in some pretty serious counseling before you end up in jail, or worse. Okay, so in your book, you coined a term, rotten seeds. Don't put those in there. What are rotten seeds?
The examples I use in the book are using the word divorce in fights or conflict, moving out, even if you think it's temporary. Well, especially if you think it's temporary. Things that and I think maybe another one is calling each other bad names
Yeah.
while you argue.
Yeah, as I've made all the mistakes I think one can just about make, I did learn over time that, having boundaries as a couple, if you want your relationship to last, you have to take some things off the table. And, using the word divorce, calling names, any name, is off the table for us, for me and Laura, because, we've said, hey, we're committed to this relationship, whatever it's going to take to work it out. And we don't have, abuse, addiction, or adultery in our relationship. None of us do. So we just take that off the table, because to me, what happens is as soon as you say the word divorce, you lose your footing. You're not secure in the relationship. Your space is no longer safe to tell the person, hey, here's the problem I'm having in our relationship. I want to work through it,
I agree. And if it is forever, once you let your own mind go there or a discussion go there, it becomes an option, and it becomes an easier option as
Mm-hmm.
the marriage goes along, because you're going to have a lot of really shitty times.
Yeah.
And you don't want to add in the D word as an option.
No, and what you said, temporarily moving out, in my experience, it's almost never temporary. It's just a way station till you go to divorce.
It's hard, and I've seen people come back from that before, but
Yeah.
and I also explain in the book that a very short distancing from each other, I'm a big fan if it's necessary. So
Go to
getting
mom's
your
house,
time.
hang out,
Right.
go take a drive, anything that may give you some space, I guess.
Right, and the book is it's informed mostly by my divorce practice, and
Yeah.
I have a front row seat to hundreds of relationships that have gone south.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have seen that once people take those certain steps, it's hard to come back from that.
Now, one of the things that I know about you and I know about me is both of us are part of what's known as a blended family.
Right.
And it is a different world when you involve children from a previous relationship. And there are a lot of, pratfalls, a lot of issues and challenges. It's just more difficult, honestly. And when you make that choice, it is a more difficult choice. It may be a choice you make lovingly and willingly, but it does have challenges. Now, you say in your book that the person you marry who helps raise your kids needs your fierce protection. That's a powerful statement. What do you mean by fierce protection?
Becoming a step parent, and I tell this often to clients and their new spouses or subsequent spouses, but becoming a step parent was one of the hardest, sometimes most miserable roles I've ever taken on. Now, my stepdaughter now is this wonderful 32-year-old woman, and I love her so much.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of really hard times. Through those times, my husband instinctively, I think, I don't know that it was even conscious, instinctively protected my role,
Mm-hmm.
my relationship with my stepdaughter, and we were a team. And without that, things would have been a lot harder for me, because I always think of in terms of this beautiful little girl was always going to be here and with
Mm-hmm.
us and
Yeah.
available. But my marriage and his marriage to me wasn't guaranteed.
No. And, whether people want to talk about it or not, sometimes just instinctively, look, kids are not dumb. And if you've got two different households, dad's in this household, mom's in this household, they know the rules are different. They know things are different. They see and hear and understand things way more than I think people give them credit for. And whether by design, sometimes they can exploit these weaknesses, and it can be very difficult on the step parent, and it can be very divisive between the parent and step parent.
I agree. And you think about the dynamic with the ex-spouse or the other parent if there was never a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And those are there are it's rife with situations where the new spouse um, kind of can be trampled on, but I'll tell you
Yes.
as well, can also overstep a lot of bounds. I was guilty of that, and I know that my husband's first wife would probably agree. We're good friends now.
Yeah.
We're good, thank goodness. But we weren't always. And there were a lot of times where, just by virtue of not knowing any better, I really made some mistakes in not knowing
Where
when
that
to
boundary
quit.
was.
Exactly. Now, no one's perfect, and it's always going to be difficult. But my
Sure.
husband was always really good at protecting, even if I was a little bit too active. He was always good at protecting me, and I really am thankful for that.
I don't know if this even really falls under the same category, but I feel like Laura was protecting me in ways because, when we were first married, and God love her, it was a lot to deal with, dealing with, moms and stuff. And look, I don't like my oldest son's mom, and she doesn't like me. I never mealy mouthed her in front of my kids because I never thought it was a good idea. But what did happen was um, this particular person would often call me and want to relitigate everything on the phone every time. And I, it's not that I wanted to. For some reason, I felt like I had to. Like I had to take that call. I had to answer those questions. I had to deal with that. And Laura said, "Listen, I think that you're talking about things that aren't relevant anymore to your relationship, and she's taking advantage of this." And she said, "I think it would be better if you just created an email account, and the only thing that you communicate with or about is anything that he needs, pertaining to school or clothing or et cetera, and nothing else." And that changed my life.
Right.
It literally changed my life because I was no longer involved in arguments or relitigating the past or defending whatever the actions were. It's just, here's the business at hand that you need to know. And that was all we talked about ever. And that worked for many, many years, and eliminated all the arguing.
Yeah, and to me, giving or receiving information about the children is that's about it. That really is the only thing that's necessary. It's going to help keep that second or third marriage healthy, because it's not going to be the subject at the dinner table every single night. That's
Right.
another thing that, statistically, the subsequent marriages end more than I mean, they are more likely to
More
fail.
likely.
You
Yes.
wouldn't think that. You'd think people would be better at it, but you insert those dynamics of the blended family, and it is very stressful. And if you're not careful and good stewards of it, it's not going to last.
Well, and in fact, you could be better at marriage in your second marriage, but you don't have any experience with blended families. And that is a ripple in the pond that's so deep and so powerful that if you're not effectively communicating with each other, it can become a huge problem.
Right.
Because if one thinks the kid's running over you and the other doesn't, you've got to communicate and figure out how to, get together on that. It's very important. So, in your book, one of the things I saw, and I just twitched a little bit, but not too bad. But what the hell do you mean when you say, "Hey, you got marriage problems? It's your fault."
I think that's probably pretty triggering for a lot of people, but if you really think about it under, again, other than the three A's, um, any kind of ongoing problem or conflict in the marriage generally takes two players at least.
Yes.
If I cannot figure out where I'm at fault, what am I doing that's creating or contributing to this problem? If I can't focus on that and admit it, it's going to be a lot harder to resolve that problem. Now, I need my husband to do the same for
Sure.
his part. It's got to be mutual, but
Quid pro quo, right? Yeah.
yeah, and I in my divorce clients, often I hear stories where in my in my analysis, no one ever really took responsibility. And keep in mind, I'm not trying to judge them, but I just
No.
observe. But no one ever really just stopped and said, "Here's what I'm going to do to change. What are you going to do to change?"
Well, and I can give you in my relationship a very good example of where I have to take accountability, and it's one of those things where I have to do it all the time. Still, I have to be very cognizant of who I am, because and Laura describes it well. When there is a disagreement, she's the kind of person who wants space. She wants to be left alone. She wants to be away from the tension and just clear her head. I want resolution. So I become a car salesman. What can I do to make you happy right now?
Right.
And I want to work through it now. And she's not ready. And so if I force that hand, then it just becomes much worse. So I've learned to remind myself, hey, you may want resolution now, but she doesn't. She needs the space to get herself together first. Otherwise, she's going to say something that she doesn't feel good about.
Right. I'm you. I always I don't need time. I know
No,
exactly how I feel and I want to
yes,
talk about it right now.
please, yes.
But I know if I push it too quickly, then again, I'll get nothing productive from the other
No,
side of the
it's
aisle.
probably going to be worse. It's probably going to ignite something else, and I'm going to be reminded why I always put myself in this situation by doing this.
I call it learning how to fight. You have to
Yeah.
learn how to fight.
There are rules. We set some pretty healthy boundaries for ourselves in that, we don't talk about divorce. That's not a word that we throw around casually at all because once you do, you lose footing. You don't feel secure. Look, if anything, a marriage should be, and look, we're all guilty. All marriages have moments,
Yeah.
peaks, valleys, all that. But ultimately, in an ideal situation, it's a safe space for you to communicate your feelings, especially to the person you've chosen to spend your life with. And if you feel like they're pulling the rug out, they're going to leave you, they're going to bounce, then all of a sudden you don't feel safe in that scenario anymore. Or, when you get to the point you call names, and that's something that we just will not do, because there's just no need for it, no matter how mad you get. And I'm not saying we've never failed and messed up. Of course we have. We're humans, but as a rule, we do not engage that way, and it usually means that one of us walks away for a little bit and goes, okay, let's get this worked out. Um, Children come second to the marriage, you say.
Yes.
How are children second? Some people say they stay together for the kid.
I have always believed that if my children are the center of my universe, my marriage will fail. So the opposite of that is my marriage is the center of my family. My
Hmm.
children they orbit.
That relationship, that marriage.
Yeah, in our relationship, we come first so that they will have an intact family. And a lot of people took issue with that tip, but I will, I'll die on that hill every day. That if and a lot of people it resonated with because they were like, I had people come in. I have a lot of people who come in and they forgot how to be married because they were so busy with the kids.
Being a parent,
That's
yeah.
going to resonate with people. And if you're doing that, you have to really make an effort not to. The marriage will die.
It will, I mean, you look just like a plant, you got to feed and water it.
Absolutely.
And a marriage is no different. When we all get caught up in what I would call the mundane details of life. We got to get them to soccer practice. We got to make dinner. We got to clean the house. We got to run the errands. We got to pay the bills. And it seems like that a lot of couples put themselves behind all of that. And I think that is a really bad idea. I think that being a strong couple, being committed to each other, loving each other, and putting that first is not only healthy, but it's a healthy roadmap for your kids to follow.
Agreed. Agreed.
And for me, I lacked that roadmap because my parents weren't a good couple. I mean, I'm not telling you that my parents didn't put any good values or things in me. Clearly, I'm not a horrible human being, or I don't think so. But it did not teach me how to conflict or how to resolve conflict. It was just, even if you have conflict, no matter how bad, you stay together, you just keep going, no matter how miserable you may be. And that's probably not a real good formula for a marriage.
Right. And if you are not continually reminding yourself why you like that person, why you're attracted to that person, why you got together in the meantime, you'll forget.
I think maybe one of the most powerful things I ever read, and I've read or listened to things on tape from different, people who talk about marriages or relationships or even understanding your own issues, is that it's a choice every single day.
Oh, for sure.
It is a choice when you wake up in the morning to love that person or not love that person, but it has to be a conscious choice. You cannot be unconsciously involved in a relationship. You have to consciously make the decision that I do love this person and I'm going to do what it takes to make this work. Again, notwithstanding the 3 A's that we've already talked about, right? Yeah, yeah. The book, After the Wedding, A Divorce Lawyer's Top 25 Tips to Keep You Married, is amazing, and it would be a wonderful gift to a young couple, a new couple, a good couple who are, just always looking for ways to be better. Not only that, she's left some amazing space in the back for notes and things like that you may want to put pictures. It can be a really neat scrapbook too. But we've got a promo code for you. If you notice where the link, where the stream is, that you can click that code. It's a promo code only for the people, and we'll get you a discount. Look, she can't discount it forever for you, so don't wait around. Get this book, Bonnie Robertson. Now, if you do need Bonnie, and we all hope that you don't, but reality is reality. Sometimes relationships fail, could be custody issues. Look, you can reach her at robertson-law-firm.com. It's Robertson, Oswalt, and Noni. Their law firm has been around for a long time. And Bonnie, as you can see, good people, not pretentious in any possible way, just a good human being and a good friend of mine. And I think she could really help you if you have a need for that. Thanks for coming in. I'm so glad that you did. Be sure and check her book out.